My name's Don.
And I'm Peter.
And we are two plebs talking about... California.
This week in the DPRC.
And boy, if I have ever had a story that is more DPRC-ish than this, I can't think of it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, over the past couple of years, we here in California have done a few things rather quietly.
Okay.
That may or may not have caught anybody's attention. And they're all sort of culminating. And then people outside, well, not so much outside of the state, but people in the state are now complaining about them, as one would assume they should.
Okay.
So, in 2016, I think, right after the election, we passed a law that said you could show up to a place that counts ballots with absentee ballots, hand them to the person that collects ballots, and just go, here, and those would be accepted.
Okay.
No evidence required that they were legal voters or anything, just you hand them the ballots, they're accepted. Now, prior to this, passing this law, you could do that if it was a blood relative. So, for example, if you're, I don't know, father, mother, whatever is in hospice care, and there is no feasible way they're going to vote. And they were originally going to vote on election day, but now they ended up in, I don't know, somewhere, right?
Right.
You could go down there and fill out a ballot for them and go, this is my dad's ballot, take it.
Okay.
And then you'd have to in some way prove that. Presumably birth certificates.
Right.
So, we said, yeah, not so much that, just everybody.
Okay.
So, I could now take a ballot for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not liking this already.
Yeah. Well, there were a few other nifty little provisions that we've done in the past, and some of which we've talked about before. Automatic voter registration.
Right.
When you sign up for a license.
Right.
And the ability-ish to vote if you're an illegal immigrant in various elections.
Right.
But not all of them, maybe.
As long as the election has no a federal component in it.
Presumably, right? And I am told that all of these things are just voters' rights protection, and there's been a couple of more littler ones, right? Like we have a couple of counties that are now only vote by mail.
Oh, really?
Yep. No more polling places. We have no voter ID laws.
Ooh.
We, previously have spent $300,000 to register 49 illegal immigrants to vote, which, I'm sure that went well.
Right.
Lots of ridiculous things. But then the 2018 election happened, and somebody, in noticing that these laws have slowly been piling on, went, well, I wonder how that's going. And then we saw in California, at bare minimum, like wherever you live, you may or may not think there was a blue wave at this point, but in California, there pretty much was. The Republican Party is effectively non-existent in this state now.
Right.
10% of everything, basically at most, right?
Right.
Well, so that wasn't enough for our fine researcher here. So he said, well, how many votes have been cast in these places where these massive landslides happened only after Election Day? Because basically they did, in that way where Democrats on Election Day tend to be losing and then afterwards tend to be winning.
Right.
All of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden, but for, 20 years now or something like that. But what happened? Well, so they went down and collected numbers for eligible voters in these areas, and then checked that against the votes.
And?
Well, we have a couple of places where spectacular numbers like 144% of the eligible voters voted in this election.
Uh-huh.
And that's fine.
No.
Well, but it is, right? Because California doesn't mandate that you register, right?
Right.
And, well, how accurate is it that we know how many eligible voters there are? It could just be any number of people, right? Hey, maybe 50% of the county moved in the past 2 weeks. You know, never thought of that, did you?
No, because it's asinine.
Well, and this is, I mean, no one even goes so far as to give that excuse. It's just, we just don't talk about it.
Okay.
Some of these things have been going on for years. Orange County has been complaining, I want to say, since a little bit before Barack Obama, that their elections keep having very similar problems to this. And they have been complaining about it to no avail, and consistently been sending Republicans to whatever place that they, were talking about in any given election. And so everyone went, well, if there was voter fraud, wouldn't they have won? Well, now they didn't. Orange County isn't sending any Republicans anywhere. At all.
Because they don't have a Republican now.
That's right. Democrat won every seat in Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not alone, right? So we've talked before, occasionally, I think mostly on live streams, when people talk about, when we were talking about dividing up the state, I said, look, there's a big, giant Republican line that runs down the Sierra Nevada line of the state.
Right.
They, too, are sending a lot of Democrats all over the place all of a sudden.
Democrats? Because suddenly they're having much different voter turnouts?
Everyone in this election had massive, massive voter turnouts. Now, I don't know the aggregated number of votes in California. I don't think it's out yet. But I will be very interested to see that number versus the number of eligible voters in the state of California.
Right.
Because, by the way, as is mentioned in this article, 144% of eligible voters, that's Soviet Union voting issues.
Right.
Oh, I'm losing? Put more ballots in the ballot box. And we have quite literally gone out of our way to make all of that available. Now, do I have any proof? No, I don't. California will not release any of this information, basically ever.
So we can't prove it.
Right. However, what would need to happen is, well, the GOP, basically, or an individual candidate, would need to sue the state of California to review these things, right?
Right.
Is this person an eligible voter? And they would need to go individually, and that would get shot down in the courts like that because, well, integrity of the voter box, there's just no possible way we could actually verify if someone who cast a vote was supposed to have cast a vote, because then they wouldn't be anonymous anymore.
Right.
Well, okay, but I'm pretty sure, based on all the other things that we have going on here, that 144% of the people involved in a county didn't vote.
Right.
And yet that's what I'm expected to believe.
That's very disconcerting.
If it was 105, I might be able to argue with a straight face that, look, that just might be
people moving in.
Right.
Right. Or people who were previously dropped off of rolls due to inactivity who suddenly jump back on.
So they're not talking registered voters. They're talking eligible voters, which is citizens something like age 18 to death.
Basically, people who can vote.
Right. Who live in that county.
Okay, so registered or not doesn't matter. A whole whopping 5% is kind of a big number, but it also depends on the size of the population.
Do you know anywhere in California with a low population?
Well, by comparison to where we live, yes.
We're talking Southern California here.
They don't have small populations.
No, they don't.
But then again, those are also the places that draw people to them. So having a 5% increase isn't outside of the realm.
Sure.
Like possibility I said, whatsoever.
If it were 5, I might be able to make arguments. 145?
No.
I got nothing.
No.
But I am consistently told voter fraud doesn't exist, that I am out of my mind. And by the way, this is going to keep happening here because no one is going to challenge it. Because those people I just said that need to be the ones to challenge it, they're not going to do it. The GOP as an organization abandoned abandoned California in the 90s.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, heck, I think some people are prepping for that, actually. So there was an article today when I read when looking through the newsfeed saying that there is voter fraud and it's coming out of the GOP.
So,
as in they're already lining them up to be the bad guy. Like, no, you guys have been complaining about all this time because you've been doing it.
And that's the argument that they're making, right? And, okay, but then explain to me California, right? And maybe they would have other answers like, well, it's in other places. In California, there's just no voter fraud. But 2 years ago, I was told voter fraud doesn't exist or it's such a minority problem that it doesn't matter. And now all of a sudden it's, yeah, there might be voter fraud and it's your fault. Even though you've been complaining about this for years and I just said yesterday this didn't exist.
Right.
And that we have numbers like this coming out, none of it matters. Because the only people who, I mean, reasonably, I guess you or I could sue, but I won't be able to afford to take California to SCOTUS
right.
to fix this problem.
Right. Yeah, we can't afford to have justice here.
No. No possible way. Right? And the people who could won't.
Right.
And by the way, dear everyone else in the country who's going, yes, California is finally getting what it deserves. They're going to vote themselves into some sort of horrible death thing. Okay, but understand that we are the test center for the entire country.
Yeah.
That things happen here, and then they move to your state.
I mean, look at Colorado.
Or Nevada. Or Oregon. Or Arizona.
Texas.
Look all over the country because Californians are fleeing from here to wherever you are. A couple years back, I went to Idaho, and we were thinking about moving there then. And then I decided I hated snow, so we decided we weren't going to go. But in the meantime, we dropped by every, local haunt that we possibly could. And everywhere I went, there were at least 2 people from California who went, yeah, I just can't stand to live there anymore. And then I would ask them about policy decisions, and they were voting straight California lines. So guess what? It's coming to you, wherever you are.
Ooh, goodness.
Isn't that exciting?
No.
Isn't that horribly terrible and we're probably going to destroy the entire election system over it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you're a paranoid conspiracy theorist, just so you know. What
do you mean? I was starting to talk shit like this in 2016 after watching California go like, oh, we've announced our winner at 3 p.m. before all the votes could possibly be in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's been going on for years, too. So, welcome to California, where the Soviet Union would blush if they acted like we do.
Ugh.
Now, because that's as terrible as it can possibly get, let's do something a little more fun.
All right. How do we recover from that?
So, bankrate.com did a survey. To be fair, survey gets called study a lot everywhere I've seen it, but It was a survey.
All right.
About where it is that is the worst place to be a driver in the United States. And they factored in lots of things. Car insurance, commute time, roads, a few other things, right? Well, considering what show it is, I don't think I can really hold out who won the worst.
Is it the state or city who won?
States.
Oh, well. Yeah, then go fig.
California is hands down the worst state to drive in the country.
Yet it's the 4th largest economy.
Or something.
Or something. It taxes its citizens the most, specifically for road care.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
On that subject, 44% of our roads are rated as poor. So just under half.
Right.
Which turns out is a winning number. We took the cake in a shocking turn of events. However, furthermore, we also have the highest insurance rates, the highest road repair costs to our vehicles, some of the worst, at least temperamentally, ish drivers, right? Just being on the road here is terrible in every possible way.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, I know you asked that state or city question, and I'm told always, Dawn, New York City. Dawn, over by D.C. Look, I've been near D.C., and I won't exactly exalt their driving as being something good. However, I've also driven here.
Right.
So, look, I don't want to drive in D.C., but I hate leaving my house in this state.
Yes.
And by the way, them's the brakes. Because New York, now to be fair, New York City is dispersed over the whole state, but New York State comes in ninth. In the crappiest. So, dear New York City, I'm sure your driving conditions are terrible, but not enough that you can overcome the entirety of California's garbage.
Right. Well, if they're talking like city to city, I mean, I've seen photos of the gridlock down by L.A.
Oh, I've been in the gridlock down by L.A.
I've never been down.
Photos are accurate-ish, depending on when you saw them from.
Right. So, and, and I've driven all over the state.
Yeah.
For work.
Uh-huh.
So I am very well sampled in driving conditions all over the place and road conditions all over the place.
And they're not good.
No, they're not.
And by the way, it's worth mentioning that you haven't had that job in almost 15 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've never been good.
No.
Right? And look, for a wide variety of reasons, I have fairly recently been driving all over the state. They didn't get any better.
No.
And as this survey of various things about driving, right? Not just they called people, but they surveyed these various things. It eminently makes clear this is as bad as it gets because our next competitor is Hawaii.
Wait. We beat out Hawaii.
Yeah.
The place that has volcanic rock overflowing roads at times.
Yeah, that's the one.
We beat them.
Yep. We are 50 out of 50. Or...
Well, people might argue with Hawaii is they don't have a whole lot of roads.
And which you would think would make traffic and commuting worse. Because those are measured. We
Right.
have higher commute times than Hawaii.
Wow.
So,
Well, the islands are so small, they just walk all over the place. They don't have to drive so much.
maybe, but, that's a failure of public transit as far as all these kinds of people are concerned.
I know.
So, we're still just worse.
Yeah.
We are the lord of crap. And not just because of the poop app.
Right. No, does any other city have a poop app?
Well, the coastline running from San Diego to Los Angeles has, I think, 4. So, technically speaking, yes, just none outside of California.
Gotcha.
Though, in a shining beacon of hope, the makers of the poop app have been talking about exporting it to Seattle. It's not a joke.
Oh, I know it's not a joke.
As funny as it is, it's not a joke.
I know it's not a joke.
So,
And as I understand, there's probably other places that are going to be needing it soon.
maybe. Just
I-
most of California, really.
Because I also hear Portland's pretty bad.
Yeah. But hold on now, because them too, by the way, like, if you are looking for the opposite of California being terrible, apparently you need to go to North Dakota.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because I've talked to people in North Dakota and they say things like, traffic here is terrible. And I'm like, no, it isn't. No.
This is a Sunday drive, bro.
Oh my God, commutes are so long, right? And look, to be fair, the only people I've talked to in North Dakota that said traffic was terrible was like Bismarck, or the one wishes it was a major city there.
Gotcha. Okay.
However, no. I don't know how else to say this. By the way, our cars get stolen more than everyone else's too.
Really?
Yeah. This is in this big survey. So, look, dear Californians everywhere, all of the various things that you're told on a daily basis about how We're improving your roads, and no matter where you go in this state, the county there is, measure 705. We're improving your road conditions, your tax dollars at work. And I've seen those everywhere from the tip of Northern California down to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right? And don't get me wrong, it's not every county, but the vast majority of them are doing something like this. Nope. No, they aren't. It's not working. And so we end up in this spectacular position where it costs more to have a car, it costs more to insure that car, it costs more to repair that car, and you're going to spend more time in it, miserable because everyone else on the road sucks, than everywhere else in the country.
But only if it hasn't been stolen from you.
That's true. So you'll also spend more time getting cars. So...
Getting the next California edition.
Right. Which is going to cost more than it does in Nevada. Because California. And we have the highest fuel prices in the country.
Well, of course, because we have specific mixes that have to be used.
Among many other reasons. Our tax rates are higher, too.
Well, that
nearly everywhere.
That doesn't help, but...
And the cost of living is so high that you have to, just to be able to hold that under the ground and be able to afford the space, you have to jack up the price a little bit too. Right. So, right. I mean, dear California, you are the worst of the worst. An island state better than you. That's all I'm saying.
Right. No, every state better than you.
Yeah, all of them.
You want to, Governor Brown wants to there like... Fourth largest economy. We are a donor state paying for the rest of the United States, but we can't even wipe our own ass, apparently.
And that's the end of our show for the day.
That's right. It's taco time.
However, before we go, we'd appreciate it if you shared us around.
You can find us on YouTube,
BitChute,
Facebook,
Twitter,
Patreon,
and Maker Support.
Thanks for stopping by.